What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome to another live stream. My name is Ian Robinson. I am the lead ZBrush trainer and training manager at Maxon, and we make all the fun stuff fun and enjoyable, and we do weird things like find buttons like this. So that's what we're doing, guys. So what is happening? Tanjiro, more like Tanjiro. What's going on? Hello, hello. All right. So as you can see here, we have a brainy character named Krang sitting here on the ZBrush side. So last week we didn't get a chance to live stream, but this week we're going to go ahead and move forward with this. So I'm going to go ahead and actually do a few different things, elements. We're going to refine this, make this a little bit cleaned up, and then let's get to some posing today because we're going to make him a statue, which is always fun. What's up, Franco? How you doing? How you doing? All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. First things first, we're going to go ahead and hit play on some music. Boom. And then the other thing, too, before we get started, I want to just showcase this real quickly. Of course, too, we're showing ZBrush, and there are other assets or tools with the Maxon One suite. So if you're a student or a teacher and you want to get into this, it's 20 USD to get started, but you know, prices may vary depending on your region, but that's around the ballpark. So if you're looking to get into it and you're a student, you're in school, you want to try some art, go ahead and pop in there and give that a go. That being said, so let's take a look at where we are. You know, a lot of the stuff that I focus on in this channel is all about just trying to assess our art and then push it to the next level, and also how I do it, right? So the week prior, we ended up doing this kind of remote control device that, of course, Crane's going to have. And what I would like to do, actually, I colored it a little bit just to kind of see visually what that might look like. Nothing is final at this point, but what we need to do is start moving into getting him cleaned up, posing, and then getting to some final, little final love. So let's move forward. What's up, Mr. White? Thank you for the stream. Absolutely. And of course, as always, guys, you can always ask me questions. If you are stuck with ZBrush, if you're not sure about something, it's always a Q&A session with me, so you can always ask questions and I'll come in there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and do a few things. So I'm going to go ahead and alt select this guy right here. We do have, of course, some subdivisions, but I want to actually change him up a little bit. His tentacles are a little bit, he has like a secondary tentacle that pops out of his main one, which kind of helps him hold things. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a cleanup here. So something I'm going to do is actually delete lower on this. I'm going to control tap up here just to give me a marker, you know, something like this. This is just to kind of store history if I want to make any random changes or whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and do that guy. And then let's go ahead and grab, boop, hit the H button. There we go. So I'm actually going to put him into Dynamesh state. So I'm going to go ahead and press and hold the resolution slider and pick a resolution that he's pretty close to. And the reason why I want to do that is because I'm going to want to modify some of his design a bit. So 500 was good, so we'll go a little higher. And we'll go ahead and turn on Dynamesh. Beautiful. And now I'm going to pick Snake Hook. Snake Hook is probably one of my most favorite brushes that I like to use when I'm making big changes. And of course, it's really good with Sculptress, so I can make some fun stuff. So let's actually also turn off RGB. We don't need that. And then let's go ahead, let's focus on this tentacle right here. And let's turn on the wireframe so you can see what's going on here. And then we can hit solo as well. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and just sort of pull this out here. So let's actually start maybe back here a little bit. There we go. Now, if I make a bigger brush, it's going to change the resolution. If I take the smaller brush, it's going to change that resolution. So we can go to stroke here. And we can actually come up to Sculptress Pro, turn off adaptive size, and then we can adjust the subdivide size, which will indicate for us how that resolution is actually going to look. So we can go pretty small and make it really dense. So let's say here, let's go with 0.1. That might be pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. And this will just help us kind of move stuff around, kind of reshape it. Get a little bit of a bigger brush, move this up like this. Yeah, a little bit of just design element. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a light smooth here. And then let's go ahead and Let's get this just to be a little bit more pointed. Say something like that. Yeah, perfect. So now we'll have this kind of, this little appendage hanging out here. And we can blow this up. So I'll use the inflate brush, now that there's some topology there, just to get a little bit more in that. And then let's redynamesh. So that'll be a really big change out the gate. And then, all right, now that we have that change, let's go ahead and hit save next. We'll get a new one. And I think I actually want to just move straight into posing with him, because I want to bring some expression to him. There's not a whole lot I could do right now without seeing the character. He's a little just bland. And so for me, visually, I want to actually see him come to life. So instead of just focusing on just like getting some secondary, you know, forms in there and minor tertiary forms in there to kind of like detail him up, because he's going to be a statue, let's just get him posed, and then we can figure out the rest from there. So I'm going to go ahead, I hit save next. So this is now just called the crane blockout number 2, but let's go ahead and actually hit every other button under the sun. So let's actually come here, let's rename this. Instead of calling this blockout, because we already have the blockout, let's call this posed underscore 001. And then I'm going to touch that one. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and then replace that. So now that's a new one that's there. What's up, Witch Cat Crochet? How you doing? Hello, hello. Okay. So now let's get into some posing. Now again, too, the seat he's sitting on is still our placeholder. We have this blocked out here, but again, it's just something there. We haven't really refined any of it whatsoever. So let's move into getting some pose, and then the chair and stuff, we'll work out that detail last. But we have this nice controller, and what I'm thinking of is he's holding it with a big smile on his face, and he's ready to hit a switch, which I think would be pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is actually let's hide his chair at the moment. Actually, no, let's not do that. Let's do this. All right. Let's go ahead and restore a new history at this point, and let's get a low resolution version of him. So I'm going to go ahead and say ZBrush at this point. And now what's cool is a lot of my settings are already set from the very last time I did this. So I don't have to worry too much, but I'm going to go ahead and say, let's turn adapt on. Let's set this to 20, because he's only 0.5 mil, so 20,000 should be more than enough. And then let's go ahead and just see what we get. Make sure symmetry is turned on. Let's see what we get. All right. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, that's actually not too bad. For what we're doing, I'm not really too worried about any game-ready topology at the moment. So let's go ahead. Although I did want to throw him in Substance Painter at some point in time. I wanted to do that. We talked about doing that at some point. You know what? Okay. Ian changes his mind. All right, so here's what I'm thinking. We did want to move him into Substance Painter, but I do want to pose him. So posing is a really good, crucial step to get things done. But let's keep him subdivided at this point. Okay, because we can still paint them asymmetrically in Substance Painter. So we'll go ahead, we'll still proceed with posing, but we'll get all these details back. And then we'll still move it into Substance, because what's cool is I want to paint him officially there. And then I can always bring those textures into my final render engine for any type of assets I want. So, or I can even turn that into poly paint if I wanted to go back a step. So let's go ahead and go with project and project history. And yeah, that's fine. Let's make sure we always do paint. Boop. So how's everyone doing? Any cool projects anybody's been working on? Let's see. What's the difference between figures, figurines, action figures, collectibles, statues, toys, etc.? I understand the basic difference, but is there some defined categorization in the industry? It says Ogdo. Bogdo. That's such a fun name to say that. Hey, what's up, Twitch Edits? So yeah, yes, there is some variation between what a action figure would be versus a figurine would be versus what a collectible is, etc., etc. So a lot of this is defined in the industry. As an example, I mean, you know, an action figure is usually a articulated figure. It's usually in some sort of A pose, and then all the joints are able to be moved and bent and retwisted in order to then, you know, be played with, right? And so the articulation aspect itself. Now, that's not to say that there aren't collectibles that do that. Collectibles in their nature are things that are desired to be collected. They're specifically designed to be collected. So, for example, a collectible Star Wars Hasbro action figure is a full sentence, and that's something that you can do. So it's really about what the intended purpose of the actual toy itself is. Some toys are just that. They're just toys, you know, it's just a basic figure. It doesn't really matter. Like somebody says, oh, I got this figure right here. They're just, it's generic speak saying that this is of course a figure. Usually you would correspond that with figurines. Collectibles specifically has its own genre of categories. You got high-end collectibles. Funko is a collectible. Even though they're on the lower scale of things, you know, when you look at a Funko Pop, they are desired, they are highly sought after, they are designed to be collected but yet played with. So it really is more of like, how are you categorizing that one specific thing? And that toy can have multiple categories within it. So it's really about just figuring out the best placement. When somebody like me says that I come from toys and collectibles and statues, statues, like a collectible statue, when I say statues, I'm literally saying like somebody's paid me to make a statue of themselves, or I can have a collectible statue, something like, let's say, this Iron Man behind me. This is a statue and it's a collectible, right? Those are the things that you really you're identifying. So when it comes to just placement, it's all about just the intended purpose of marketing. Where is that item being sold and purchased? That's ultimately the major difference between all of those different areas. So hopefully that answers your question. And if anybody else has anything they want to add to that if you work in toys, go ahead and do it. But yeah, it's more like subcategories within an overall arch of categories. Oh, thanks, Andre. How you doing? Yeah, we are actually just getting ready to I still want to do a pose with him and then get some final details and stuff like that. And we got to bring some expression and so forth to him. So we're going to go ahead and start moving him. We just went ahead and dropped them down in a pretty decent low resolution. Now let's go ahead and figure out a pose for him. So I'm going to hit save. And then we're going to go up here to, of course, our Z plugin. And we're going to go to our transpose master. And we're going to go boop and send that on over. All right, so now we got this guy right here. So here's what I'm going to do. Because of what I'm trying to achieve, I'm going to temporarily call this all one polygroup, so I can just select this object all at once. And I'm actually going to start with this object as a whole. I'm also going to just come over here and select these and then Control-Shift-A to then do a full selection. And then I'm going to also make that its own polygroup as a whole. This is just going to be easier for me to then quickly make selections and stuff. And then what I'm going to do as well is come here, say something like, let's grab this guy, Control-Shift. So let's grab this guy right here. Let's grab all this, boom, and we can just make that all one spot. So now I can just start moving things through, etc., etc. Are you using anchor brushes to with T-pose to pose characters? I use it in some respects, yeah. In fact, I can show you that too if you would like a little bit more. But I still pose more traditionally with the gizmo, but there are times where I'll use the anchor brush for specific purposes, which I might end up doing that here. So let's go ahead and isolate this guy. And I'm actually going to go ahead and put him more like here. And I'm going to rotate him a little bit. So here I want to do, so in full characters, I typically start with the hips, but he doesn't have a hip, so he has a face. So I need to like kind of like imagine like he's either looking up and he's like expressive, or he's like really staring at this controller. I don't want him looking down. I kind of want him looking more excited, like he's holding the controller up itself. So I'm going to grab this instead. Let's go ahead and reset, and let's move this. And let's see where we can get this placement here. So a rule of thumb when you're doing any type of posing, if the character has a face, we don't want to hide the face from 4 major angles. And I say 4 because I want to be able to look at it from here. I want to be able to look at it from here. It's unavoidable to see the face from behind, but I need to be able to see the face of this component here. I want to know what it is he's doing. So I'm looking at it from this area. So if I'm blocking the character's face, I need to have their intent kind of purposed. And then see here, now I'm kind of blocking his face there. So I always kind of pivot around and see what the best angles are. Like if I do come low, does that look pretty good? Which I actually might look pretty good. So maybe we can do something with his tentacles, or his arms. So I got the face here. Okay, I can see that's going on there. So I can start seeing things that's happening. Now I'm just making some fine adjustments here. Okay. Now I am going to use a new gizmo function here where I can actually come through. So in 2024, one of the new features is when you're not in symmetry and you want to be able to block off and mask off. Something like the old way of posing would be select this here, soften this a bunch, kind of reposition this as it makes the most sense, hold Alt down, and then I start moving this around, right? That's the old way of doing it. However, now what you could do is I could press and hold Control, again with no symmetry turned on. Just like before, I could drag this, but now the bonus is when I let go of Control, now it actually keeps that gradiency, and it's moving along and masking off the things that I want. It's finding that center point. So now that's actually set here, which is perfect. So now I can be posing a little bit easier. There we go. So get this up here. And again, I want to make sure. There we go. And of course, too, what's fun is he's a brain, right? So I don't have a shoulder to really worry about so much, which is awesome. So now I'm going to come over here. And again, I just get to kind of get in here a little bit. Now, what's cool is if I wanted to refine this a little bit, so going into the anchor brush here, if I wanted to define this a little bit more, maybe I want to move or rotate, I'll go ahead and hit these 2 points, and now I'll be able to really come here and identify some of the areas, right? Whee! I could do that too. Let's go ahead and press Alt and just tap that, and then I'm going to take the Move Infinite brush. I hit the comma key for that. Why are we hitting the comma key? BMN, Move Infinite. There we go. Oops, grab this guy. There we go. Okay, perfect. That works out. Now, of course, too, I'm kind of stretching the tentacle a little bit, right? So let's do this. Let's mask out this area and let's take a look. What happens if I just end up moving this a little bit closer? Push this in a little bit. Now, of course, we're going to do one of two things when we prep him for 3D print. We're either going to A, key him so that this is printed separately and then this keys directly in, or what we'll do is we'll weld the tentacle with the actual controller itself, but we'll create a key cut at the actual arm itself. So there's a couple things we can do and kind of figure that out as we go along. So we'll kind of move this around a little bit. See, something like this actually could be quite interesting. I like to try to push things a little bit towards reality. Like, if he was actually holding this, he would have, like, I imagine, like, my phone, right? So, like, most people, when you hold your phone, you got, like, your pinky underneath your device, right? We just can't, like, no one's holding their phone like this. At least I don't think so. I don't think this is how people hold their phone. Usually they're holding it like this, or if you're scrolling, right, you have your pinky underneath it. So taking that into consideration, that's why I'm thinking about his little tentacle guy right here could be sitting like that. What do you have to do to drag the gizmo while masking? So in the new update of 2024, what you do is you turn on your gizmo, press and hold Control, and start dragging just like before. And you can see here that's setting a gradiency, and then making sure you're not with symmetry cannot work in this scenario right now. So symmetry has to be turned off. As soon as you find the gradiency of the mask that you want, or the starting point, you let go of Control while still clicking, and now that's going to mask and drag, and it's keeping within the center of that selected subtool. So it's identifying the center point of that. So again, that's pressing and hold Control with the gizmo out. Start your dragging out just like you used to before. This is a function that's lived in ZBrush for a bit, but now the adding is letting go of Control and dragging, and that sets it to center. Like I said, if you have symmetry turned on, then that won't work. So you have to make sure symmetry is turned off. Yeah, not a problem. Okay, great. So now here, now he's just like, he's just looking. He's just looking. And I'll have to say, like, not really impressed with this pose so far. That's okay, we just started, right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab the mask lasso, and I'm kind of just playing right now. I'm not really 100% certain of what I want this pose exactly to be. So I am doing a little bit of exploring as we do this. And quite frankly, this is the fun thing to do. I love the exploring process. I think that's what's always separated my love for 2D versus 3D. Like, I'm starting to get back into a little bit of 2D drawing and just sketching, but not really hyper-focused on it because I think it's still good exercise. And I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, and I want to get back into something like that. However, I do find that when I personally am drawing in 2D space, I feel like I am not really exploring as much as maybe I could. With 3D, that's actually the thing that I've always loved about ZBrush, is that I'm actually able to explore out the gate. And that's always been super helpful for me. And so that's why I connected with the software so much, right? So in this case, too, that's really a lot of what I'm doing. I'm kind of just sitting here and exploring the possibilities. Like if I want to tilt his head a little bit, right? What would make the most sense? Now this pose isn't going to come to life, of course, until I actually put some sort of expression on him. So usually my steps to posing is like a couple different things. And actually, in this case, it might be wise, yeah, to just kind of like lift him up entirely. Oh yeah, that actually might work out really good. Let's go ahead and take the move. Let's start pushing that down just a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, great, perfect. Okay, that's looking a lot better. Perfect. All right, I like that. All right, so now what I want to do is kind of explore his arm a little bit. And this is where the anchor brush now comes into play a little bit more than the way I just posed that arm. So the way the anchor brush I think works best for me is being able to explore like, okay, I do want to move this shape up, or maybe I want to curl his hand a little bit. So maybe I'll come up and I'll start like stepping in and seeing like, does this make sense? So maybe boom, boom. Yeah, that actually looks pretty cool. Okay, that's actually looking pretty neat. I like that flow. But now to make a big movement, I still personally prefer to come here and, like I said, either do this or mask it off. Right? It's completely up to you at that point. Let's actually soften that mask a little bit more. And actually, let's go back here for a second. Let's bring that up. Yeah, let's bring that up. Let's bring it up. There we go. Yeah, this is cool. Okay, cool. And then we can come through. Let's go ahead and alt. I like to get rid of these anchor points. That is very much something I like to do. It's just, for me, it's a lot easier. Okay, mask this off. Ooh, I let go of that too soon. Smooth that over there. Go ahead and press Alt Control. Okay, that's good. Okay. Okay. So I'm actually not liking that area, so I'm going to just manually do my select. So when in doubt, just, you know, stick with what you know, what works. I'm also going to think of this from the top, too. Like, no one would just be like, right? So maybe, trying to think, like, he likes to curl and stuff like that. He likes to do his little weird tentacle aspect. So maybe here, this is something where, like, it's coming down a little bit more. Okay. You know, we can always play with this a little bit more later. It doesn't have to get final right now. Okay, so let's take a look at it from all the sides here so far. So we got this back side, which is not my favorite. This feels a little elongated, a little weird. This looks pretty good, but I'm kind of starting to block his face a little bit. I can see this fine, and I can kind of see what's going on there. So that's okay. So let's mask this off. Soften that up and reverse that. What happens if we just break it? What happens if we break it? Okay, we got this side. I am favoring it being a little bit down. But that looks weird now. So let's see here. Also, too, his tentacles could just be a little too much. So let's dial that back down just a little bit. Okay. I think we definitely need to find an expression on his face in order to make this work a little bit more, but I think this is starting to shine up a little bit. So, okay. All right, I'm still blocking his face here. I'm not a fan of that typically, but let's pause on that for a second. Okay, and let's do this. Let's do this. So I like to do this a lot, actually. So we're going to send this back. Okay, we're going to call this pose 1. And then I'm actually going to go ahead and try something else via pose 2. Hey, what is going on, Dylan? How you doing? Hi, Nicholas. Is happening? Hey, Kairos? Yes. Okay. So this is our quote pose 1. And here's the thing. This is pose 1. So let's actually do this. Let's say no. And let's do this. Let's call this underscore 2 pose 1. A lot of times it's good to just get the first thing done. Get that out the way. So let's go back to this guy right here. And then let's do a different pose. So let's come over here and let's send this back to T-pose mesh. So we got a first pose out the way. Now let's try something different and something a little bit more unique. All right? Or just something a little bit more, just different. Just different. So let's grab this guy right here. Let's go ahead, Control Shift A, Control W. Let's go ahead and hide that, Control W. And let's actually give it a very different color. Okay, great. So now I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees, and I'm literally now going to be putting this in front of him. And let's see what this looks like here. Okay, so let's grab this. Let's move this over here. Let's move him up just a little bit. Okay, we can see his face. That's good. Okay, actually, this might be kind of cool. All right, so let's turn symmetry on for a second. We're gonna do a little bit different. Here we go. Let's rotate his arms around. Interesting. Okay. Now let's break symmetry at this point. Ooh, actually, I really busted those arms there. Well, that's okay. That's fine. We're going to have to make some sculptural changes anyway. So now let's go ahead and let's start grabbing that guy. So let's put this maybe a little bit more in front. Hey, what's going on, Gurn? How you doing? Is that the interdimensional control panel? It might be, it might be. Hey, Layla, how you doing? Yes, it absolutely is. It is the brain thingy from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Crane is his name. Yep. How you doing, Layla? How's it going? By the way, everybody, if you guys aren't following Layla, she's also a live streamer here. She usually streams on Sunday, Los Angeles time, but Monday, her time. And so definitely give her a follow if you haven't seen her. Amazing stylized artist. And also, too, she also has the ZBrush Sculpt Off. So, you know, just throwing that out there. All right. So now, okay, I'm actually digging this a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate this. And then let's do this. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move this slightly off to the side. Yeah, see, sometimes you just gotta get rid of. Sometimes you gotta push the one idea out the door. You gotta be like, yeah, this is just not the thing that's happening. Autosave, thank you so much. Absolutely, yeah, Layla is super awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, again here, I'm going to go ahead and press and hold Control and do that thing. We're really going to stretch this out. This is the cool part about a creature like Crane, is that you can pretty much just do whatever. You know, like, okay, I'm stretching that out a little too much, so maybe here I'll mask. Just really get that sorted like such. There we go. Really move these out the way. There you go. Boom. There you go. There you go. That thing gave you nightmares as a kid. You know what? I absolutely 1000% understand where you're coming from on that. Okay, now let's go back to the anchor brush, right? So we're gonna go boom and boom here, and we're just gonna end up moving this just a little bit more. Actually, let's back that up here. Boom, boom. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah. All right, perfect. Like he's holding that. Like he's holding that. Love it. So Alt-tap these. Let's get rid of this for just a second. Gonna move infinite him just a teeny bit. There we go. Just kind of get that just a little bit out the way. Go back to the anchor brush. So B, A, and N. I'm gonna tap, tap. and kind of get that boom right there. I'm thinking about having this welded to his hand. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. You never know. And here, boom, boom, boom. We're going to just end up moving this around. Bringing a little bit of like curling to him. So why not? And then again, we'll just take the move brush here. There you go. Okay. So this is already looking a little bit more interesting to me. I can see the face of everything. Behind here is okay. Can't really see anything there. That's okay. I haven't rotated him around yet, so keeping this in mind, you know, more than likely I'll do something like this, where I'll end up rotating him around and seeing the character a little bit more. In fact, we can do that now. Let's actually rotate him. Yeah, so we can already rotate him like this. There we go. So at least you could see what's happening on this side. You can start to see it over here. So this is feeling a little bit more. This is feeling a little bit better to me. And then here we can come in. There we go. I guess something like that. Okay, great. Let's just do a temporary. Let's just do a mask off. Mask off, dance off. There we go. What's my absolute favorite feature in ZBrush 2024? Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. My absolute favorite feature in 2024 so far has to be proxy pose. And the reason why I say that is because I'm such a Dynamesh workflow person, and I stay in Dynamesh for a long time when I'm working out the character. It's been ingrained in me. I've been using Dynamesh for pretty much the entire time I've been sculpting. So it's definitely like part of my process. Proxy pose lets me really just knock that down and just move things quickly and still retain all of that information that I had in the Dynamesh, and it doesn't force me to move into ZBrush. So although ZBrush is still a workflow habit for me, the proxy pose really just helps me move that. So that's one of my favorite ones as well. Slime Bridge is also another one that I really enjoy, and one that I've recently started playing more and more with is actually the repeat to similar parts. But I don't do too much on the hard surface front of things. I'm mostly organic. While I can do hard surface stuff, it's not my bread and butter. The organic world is. So I tend not to use that as much, but this tool has bailed me out with tons of rivets and being able to really just manipulate that as much as possible. So putting placeholder shapes all throughout, figuring out where everything is, and then switching it out for a hex head or you know, a flush like a flesh bolt, like a flesh you know what I'm saying, like a bolt, or you know, anything like that. It just really ends up helping. So this is a feature that I'm really starting to dig as well. Although I think Slime Bridge came out technically in 2023. Yeah. We've added improvements to the proxy pose, which is nice, so I really like that. Anchors is pretty cool. I like the anchor brush as well for little things like that. So yeah, I would say those are my top new features that I like. And is it possible to move and rotate multiple subtools at once? Do they need to be in the same folder as a moveset? Oh no, absolutely. Here, I'll show that. Let me finish this pose and I'll show that. It's all through the gizmo. All through the gizmo. You can move multiple stuff at the same time, and it doesn't need to be in the same folder. It's actually really simple. So I'll show that here in just a second. Okay. So what I need to do here, so I'm thinking about, he's like ready to press a button. Or he's curling his arms still. I did like the curl. That was pretty cool. So maybe we'll do this. What is your favorite feature in 2024, Layla? You know it. It is definitely Crane. Yep. Okay, so B, A, and N for the anchor brush. And again, I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, start rotating this around. Going to go ahead and stop right there, rotate it around this some more. It's also cool is you can get a lot of really just fun shapes here, which is nice. Such a weird character. I love it. You can kind of just pretty much stick with whatever you want, which is nice here. All right, we definitely need to get like a freaking smile on his face. He's too plain. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, let's do this for now. So let's refine this just a little bit more here on the arm. I want this arm to feel a little bit more natural. Still feeling a little, it just feels a little unnatural at this point, and that's okay. We still need to do a lot of cleanup. Anytime you're posing, I'll be the first person to admit it, especially with the way I do posing. Posing in general, you're gonna break it. Like, I have never successfully really found a pose without busting my character. That being said, though, like, you know, once you get really clean topology and stuff like that, then you got rigging and stuff like that that ends up happening. It makes it a lot easier. But even then, like, that's what weight painting and stuff is for. It's like, you know, you're really just exploring the characters, shapes, and stuff, and then you got to make all those adjustments. So I always find that, like, there's always adjustments to be made when you are finding a pose. So don't be afraid to bust it. You know, if you break it, you break it. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. All right, so let's do this. Let's send this back, and this will be pose number 2, and we can always refine it later, but I think I'm already kind of favoring this a little bit more. And so we'll end up getting an expression on his face. Now I'm going to go ahead here and just hit save as, and I'm going to call this _2, just like the other one, but now this is pose 2. So now I know which one I'm actually working off of. And I'm going to go ahead. So that's saved. Now, okay, so to answer your question, Gurren, to answer your question, yes. How do you move multiple subtools at the same time without them all being in the same folder? Either way, the way to really do that would be just using the pizza box. So anytime you turn on this pizza box, you'll notice here that I do have folders, and there's like a chair component, right? There's parts of the actual controller itself here. There's this tongue. They're all throughout various stuff, and this is how you would end up moving and manipulating different aspects, different subtools, all within your scene without it being into the same folder aspect. So that would be the way to go about doing that. If you wanted to, of course, pose things kind of like the way I did, where you know you did go under transpose master, then you can go ahead and do that. That's honestly the easier way to move and manipulate stuff because it puts it all under one subtool. But for what you're talking about, wanting to move different subtools, then that's how you do it. In fact, what makes it work this way too is that, let's say, for example, I want to move or scale the eye a little bit. Like I want to make an adjustment, but I don't want to just move his eyeball and then move the eye bag, etc. So I can mask off this area here, soften that, right? Invert, soften this up. And then what I could do is I could pick the eye. I can make sure that I mask off the one eye I don't want to be affected, because this respects and supports the masking elements. Then I can come through and just pick these two things, right? And now I can scale the eye up and down. So I can actually change whole parts of his face really effectively by just like, okay, give him an itty bitty little eye there. So there you go. So you can do that with both, and then it respects the masking, which is really, really nice. What's up, Chris? How you doing, man? Using the ZModeler, is there an easy way to polygroup between two polys in a long chain? Long chain as in a row of polys. So yeah, there's a few options I think you might be able to do. So let me actually insert here just a plain 3D real quick. I'm gonna just, here, let me do this. I'm gonna move him Okay. Let me just move him over here for a second. Control stamp that. Let's just focus on this plane here. That we have something. So do you mean like, for example, you have, this is a polygroup, and you have this as a polygroup, and you want to make a polygroup in between these sets. I'm assuming that's what you mean. So there are a few things you can do here. So first thing is, of course, the ZModeler. You first want to ask yourself, like, how do you want to actually create the polygroups, right? Do you want to use the edge loops? Do you want to use the facing? So anytime you are hovering over a point, face, or an edge loop, for those who don't know ZModeler, with ZModeler selected, which is B, M, and Z, you just go ahead and hover over the thing you want to affect, press and hold the space bar, and you get a ton of options. And the polygroup is affected on both the face and on the edge loop, and yeah, just both on the face and the edge loop. So the idea here is that you'd be able to say, oh, I want to add a new polygroup right between these two polygroups. So I want to be able to come here and click that, and you can press and hold and tap Alt for that. So you can come through and just start picking all these different things, and you should be pretty good to go. So that would be like, of course, the one way to go about doing that. But there are modifiers to this as well. So I can overwrite or have an additive function to it. So I can come through and, you know, start just kind of clicking and changing a lot of this stuff. So that's the first approach. The other thing would be to, of course, do it on the actual face of it, and you get more options when you do it on the face. So in this case here, with polygroup selected, hovering over face, I can do all sorts of really interesting things. I could say all the quads, a single poly. I can do polygroup all, which will just do everything. I can do in front, flat line. I can do a ton of stuff, right? Curved islands, etc. So you can make more adjustments to your polygroups depending on your shape. So for example, this shape here, right? I can actually hover over the face, and I could say, you know what? I want to do polygroup, but I actually would like to do a checkered approach. So I would select my target, and then I would say, like, if I click here, now it's going to be adding checkers. I hit an edge right there. That's what happened. So I can click here, and now it's going to give me a checkered look. Or if I Control Z back, come through and say all, was it front facing? So if I say all front facing, I click this, but then as soon as I rotate, it's only affecting everything that ZBrush saw that was front facing. Everything else kind of goes through. So that's one other way. Now, so a little bit more advanced thing that you can do is you can actually manipulate the polygroups by using this feature here. So your temporary polygroups, right? If I come over and say, like, okay, let's say all polygroups, right? I can do, using these temporary ones, I can add a bunch of stuff. But what's really cool is, let's say that this was not checkered, this was just one group. And I have something like this, and now I need to make this section a part of this section. What I can actually do is I can hover over this face, press and hold Alt. What's happening here? Come over here, press and hold Alt, there we go. What is happening? Why is that splitting? 1 second. Let me just use the mouse. I like to use the mouse as ZModeler. So anyway, so I can come through here, right? And what I can do is I can select here, let go, press and hold Shift, and now I can actually fill in and change polygroups. So if I wanted this edge loop, these quads to be here on this, I can actually press and hold Alt, left click, let go of Alt, right? So I'm still left clicking, press and hold Shift, and now I can come in here and I can actually connect these, and these now can be part of this polygroup. So you can easily manipulate in between each of these sections. So again, just pressing and hold Alt, let go, it gives me the original polygroup I had. If I press and hold Shift, it remembers the one that's underneath it, and now I can just split these up. And this is actually a really cool way to start making some fun shapes. So there's a ton of different ways to approach that, but at the end of the day, the tool itself is reliant on what action you're trying to achieve and what you're wanting to affect. So if you're wanting to affect the quad itself, which I typically do, then those are some options you can do. But if you want to do just the edge loop, then, you know, pressing the edge loop and then tapping Alt a bunch of times will just then start giving me a different selection set overall, which is fun. And here I'm saying additive. I had that changed to additive. Usually it's just overwrite. So if you're clicking here, it'll just overwrite everything. But you can see here, if I wanted this all to be different polygroups, and this edge, that additive really comes into play, because then when I click this, anytime it notices a polygroup change, it will change the polygroup for you. So now I'm getting very different selection sets, and that this is a way you can kind of split things in. The last but not least is just using bevel. So if I use bevel in between two edge loops, like I just need to split, going back to the original, I just need to split up these two and have a completely different polygroup in between, but you don't want to do this, where you're just like coming in and saying, you don't want to do that, but it's totally fine. Just come in here, go to bevel. By default, it's just gonna start giving me a different polygroup. But you're adding another edge loop at this point, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Just saying, like, you can then come through and bevel that edge, even though it's a flat line, and that will give you a new polygroup altogether. And then you can, like I said, you could just kind of split that. So that would be another way to go about doing it. Okay, lots of happening. Your first sculpt my creature and needed to move the head, eyes, teeth, blah, blah, blah. Not a problem. Hey, what's up, that one 3D artist? How you doing? Let's see. Why do you shake the polygons around when you move them? It's not the first time I've seen you doing this, and I wonder why. What you mean, like, why do I do this? Is that what you mean? It's literally to just get attention. If you see me do this a lot, I'm literally just trying to be like, it's my looky here. It's my attention. That's all. If that's what you mean. I do that a lot. You're right, I do that a lot. What's up, Zachary? Dude, your day is going really well. Going ahead and just making this guy super fun. Yeah, I do this a lot. That's funny. Okay, let's see here. Choose one poly at the beginning and one at the end. Easy way to choose between the poly groups without selecting one by one. Cool. Really need to play more with all these great tools. I'm still stuck in the past. No, Andre, I totally understand what you're talking about, man. Breaking habits is hard, Anytime you're learning something new, like, that's the thing with, like, ZBrush has always been, like, trying to, innovate and create new, new ways to do things. But I can understand it's sometimes very difficult to keep up with that, because especially if you're a professional in the pipeline, or you're trying to get work and you're trying to respect other pipelines and learn the processes, right? You ultimately you're trying your best to kind of stay current with what, studios and stuff are doing. And in doing that aspect, sometimes it doesn't leave room for exploration, which is why I'm here to help. So then I can kind of help guide those into, and help you play with some more tools. Okay, just doing a little bit of a smooth relax here. Okay. And then I'm going to mask this section off. I feel like I want to bring this forward just a little bit. Just make it a little bit more interesting. It's a little boring from the top there. Okay. All right, let's focus on some expression, I think. Oh, I think Stevie meant selecting faces from point A to point B in a poly loop, but not a full poly loop, similar to double tap in Maya. Ah, okay. Is there a way to do that? Now, the additive way that I showed would be a way to do that, but let me see here real quick. Let me pull back up that. Let me pull that back up. Let's actually I'm just going to reconstruct this just to get fewer. So you're saying you want to be able to do, let's say this was a different poly group. Like this was, let me see. So you're saying if this is a poly group and this was a different poly group, you want to, or this was the same poly group and you want to fill this in. I want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So you want to be able to, like, is it like, sorry, is it like you have two different and you want to fill these in with the same polygroup? Or is it that they're different polygroups and you want to kind of fill that in? I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, the fastest way I could think of is this additive one, but that's not filling in this gap. Let me see. How would I do that? How would I do that quickly? I don't know if there is a way to do that. At least not that I've played with. Let me see. Let me get back to you on that. I don't know if there is a way to do that, but I'm immediately thinking, like, if you had a polygroup here, if you had two polygroups like this, honestly, part of me just says select it, Control W, and move on. That would be one way to go about doing it. I don't know if there is. I don't know. I'd have to look that up if that makes sense. Yeah, let me get back to you on that. I really can't think of a way that I would be able to do that specific task unless there's a stop point. A relative -1. What does this do? That's additive. Relative -1. What does that mean? What does that mean? You know what? Yeah, let me get back to you on that. Because I don't know. I don't think there is. I'm not thinking of a way that is actually possible unless, like I said, unless you already had it. So, I mean, yeah, because a lot of us just do this. A lot of us will just boom. And that's where this feature kind of comes into play when you press Alt, Tap, and then hold Shift and do that. But yeah, I mean, like, the fastest way would be selecting it and creating it. Yeah, let me get back to you on that. If not, I like where your head's at. Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could do this and then do that. But that's that's not super controllable. I would much rather do this. I'd much rather do this and then just call that a day. You could possibly, actually... Nope. Even that's like... It's like there's all these ways that I could probably want to do it, and this is the faster route. Like if I had a point from here to here, and these were two different, I need to fill this in quickly, right? This becomes a little bit... I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, let me sit on that. Great question, by the way. Great question. I will get back to you on that, because I don't think there is a way. I'm going to go on record and say I don't think there's a way to do that, but that doesn't mean that it couldn't be, there couldn't be another way, and I'm just not thinking of it. Oh yeah, you guys remember this hair? I don't know why we did that. Let's get rid of that. Great stuff. Okay. Yeah, not a problem. So I have a question. I want to copy height information from one spot to another. Is there a function or a brush that does this? Like Photoshop's patch tool, if that makes sense. You want to be able to take height information from one to another? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. Yeah, and I'm immediately thinking of history brush and morph target. Could be a way to do it. Maybe. Okay, here, let me see. Let's grab this guy right here. I didn't mean to delete. Let's go here. Let's do this. Okay, so you got height information. This is the brightest skin shade I have. Okay, boom. So you want to take this information and kind of patch it to something like on Crane. The way I'm immediately thinking of that is through history. So if I were to, oh, actually, you know what? No. That's not, no, never mind. Hold on. I have another way. I have another way. So I'm going to open up the stroke here and immediately, okay, here is the record function. So under stroke, go up to stroke and you go here to record and add recording. You get a stroke count. Okay, so if you wanted to do this, okay, so number 3 on the keyboard is what actually records an action. So I can say that this is my stroke, all right? And then from there, I can turn off the record phase. And then I have a few things. So I have export last, I have replay all, I have replay that's relative. So if I press and hold Shift 2, does that action. There you go. So I can come over here, Shift 2. Come over here, Shift 2. Shift 2. I can just do that. That actually is like, that is the way I would do it. Absolutely. Now, the thing to remember with that is if I'm recording a stroke, so I'm recording a new action now, and I do this, and then I rotate, that rotate is a stroke, and you have to remember that. So if you were to rotate, then say Shift 2, you do this, boop, it's going to go ahead and rotate. Shift 2, boop, rotate. But you can see here where that failure will start to come in, right? I didn't make that stroke, but it picked that stroke up. So again, you want to just hit 3 on the keyboard, which is going to start recording that action. There's your hide information. Let go of 3, move on over, Shift 2, boom, does it. Because 1 actually repeats an action, right? And so Shift 2 or 2 will also replay that action. But Shift 2 depends on where your cursor's at, will add that information exactly the way you recorded that. And that would be the way to go. Do I plan on printing this? Yes, absolutely. 100%. So, and then you can export out all your strokes. That's what's really cool about that. So, and what makes this really fun is, again, let's say you're doing some detailing. So you hit 3, you start adding some stroke information, and you're like, perfect. And then you say, okay, done with 3. Now I can just, right, I can go ahead and say Shift 2, that will do. See, I moved it. Let's go back here. Boom. So I'm going to go ahead, start making some lines. Go ahead, right, and then I can hit 2 to repeat that exact amount of strokes, or I can move over here and Shift 2, and that's going to add that first stroke where my actual cursor is. And that can help you a lot. So that would be really good with hide information. The other way I was thinking was with the store history. Yeah, save fine. But there's the caveat with that, and the reason why I said no was because, pardon me. So let's say I have this hide information right here, and I have this hide information right here. So I back up. Go ahead and store that. So now I have this information. Well, if I had, let's say, an object underneath this, so let's go ahead and call out a key. No, that's silly. Why would I? Oh, no, actually, that's fine. Yeah, let's go down here like this. Let's just make sure. Let's go V2, so just V5. There we go. Let's just hide everything except for the 2 things we need. So if I have this right here, and this is in relatively the same position, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and say, let's do Dynamesh, because I know this is super low res. So let's just Dynamesh it real quick. Okay, so with this right now, I believe the morph target brush, say boop. Oh, that's the masking brush. So B, morph, and then where are you? G. Okay, so here, yeah, that's, okay. Oh, I thought that worked with history. Does that not work with this? Yeah. Sorry, history, let's go with history recall. There we go. So the thing with history recall is that it's picking up that history marker, right? So if I go back to this area here and store this as my hide information, now it's going to try its best to replicate the hide information, but you can see here it's not 100% the way that I would like that to be. So that's like the first call out. I think the second one here, if I were to do this, I think, and if I store a morph target, so if I go morph target and hit store on that, I think that's how it works. It's been a little bit since I used this. Now what I could do is grab that morph target. Yeah, okay, yeah, so that's not even working. So, okay. So yeah, the record function would be the best. Because again, I can just come over here, record this stroke, be like, yeah, that's fine. Come over here, shift 2. If I had a good resolution on this, let's just divide a few times. Good resolution, shift 2. I can then start that exact same stroke and height information gets brought back over. So it just makes it a lot easier in this case. And then I can modify that. So that's why I said that. I think that's the best approach. Hopefully that made sense. Great question. I'm with Ian on all the other methods. I use them all the time, but it would be nice to have this one though. All right, yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah, it also depends too. You guys got to remember too, it all depends on, like, a lot of times as artists, we're trying to do a very specific one-off thing. And sometimes the best approach is to just manually do it, which is even for me. But those are things I think about, like how many people actually do this functionality. And this is what we talk about when we talk about new features and stuff. And anytime we hear feedback or thoughts like this, it's always helpful to be like, oh, okay, this is what the intended purpose is. This is what somebody's actually trying to do. And then that makes it more helpful and understanding that process. So that's why it's really good to talk to you as we're going through it and you're asking those questions, because at the end of the day, there might be something that we can do in the future to make that easier. So with all of that being said, let me do something real fast. I'm just looking at some reference, wanting to see the kind of smiling pose that I want. Okay, great. Yeah, I think we want him to be happy. I want him to be happy. So let's do that. So now I'm going to just focus on just making him smile. And let's just hit save one more time because I don't remember when's the last time we saved. Maybe stamp tool can work in this case. Yeah, maybe. Okay, let's do this. So I'm actually going to... I want him to have some big eyes. And we're going to make him smile. And this is where we're going to break it. This is where it's going to get weird. Let's do this. I'm also going to, let's go to brush, let's go to auto masking, and let's turn backface masking on. We're going to have some thin areas for a little bit. So when I use the clay buildup, we'll have that turned on. Is there a brush in ZBrush that's similar to the clone pattern stamp tool? So there is a brush that's actually designed for, what is it? Projection, I believe. Hold on, let's go B. Let's go. I use it quite often. ZProject. So there is a projection tool, and this one is a little interesting. So, for example, this one I use a lot for the toys itself, but this is most of ZBrush's function when we're talking about repeating a very specific shape. This is where the history brush comes into play. That history marker is a really big driver for what is happening. So that's why I showed the recording function, because that's the fast way to get something that's not tied to its place in ZBrush. So, for example, let's say I had a specific shape that I wanted to bring in, and now I need to kind of replicate the underlining texture. I need to replicate this. this is where ZProject will come into play. So, however, there is a stamp function you can do. So this will be like a projection tool, right? However, there is another way you can do something, and that is through creating your it's called extractor. Now this one's a little interesting because this is more alpha driven. So if I wanted to duplicate the shape here, I press and hold G, and I drag this out, and I'm doing the extractor drag rec, because this is going to generate an alpha. And you can see here now I have an alpha for this. So then I can come through here and drag this shape out. Let me just subdivide so you can see. And I can drag this shape out. And this would be the only other thing I would say would be good for like cloning, because you're literally creating a custom drag rec brush. You can also, with the same technique here, go drag rec, where I can then come through here, I can hit G, and I can actually scan this area, and that will create a new section. And then I can place these right where I want. So I can be like, yeah, something like that, something like that. And if that's kind of what you meant, then that would be the other aspect to it. Extractor, yeah, there you go. Oh, that's what you meant by stamp. I was like, I don't see a stamp one. Yeah, extractor, 100%, Layla, 100%. So this would be cool. If you go, and if you just do the extract, the typical extract one, you hit G, you can scan and get a lot more information. These are pretty cool. But if you want to copy like extreme height information, that's where I would record it. But if you want to record textures like this, then yeah, that would be it. There you go. So B, X, and then I recommend the extract dot because, again, you can drag out a big spot on this, and then you could just focus on dragging that shape out. And then, of course, you can do that. You can hold Alt on that as well. So there you go. There you go. Yeah. How would you change the alpha if it's not right the first time? You just would just rescan it. So you'd hit G again, and then you would drag that out. And if you don't like that, then you would just do that process again. You'd be like, I don't really like that. Hit G, scan it again. The thing to remember is that when you're scanning anything, when you press and hold G and the bar becomes blue, wherever you start your drag, that's the center, and then drag it out. So you want to make sure that you're starting from the center of what you want to actually record, okay? And then you let go, and then it will scan that area. So press and hold, just press G. You don't have to hold it, just press it. Say this is the middle, drag that, and there you go. And what's cool about that is the brush size, right? When you press G, whatever you're looking at, just think of like that blue, what's inside the blue area, that's going to be what is going to be recorded. Just think of it like that as you visually reference that. So then when you come back here, then you'll know like, oh yeah, that's the shape. And then of course this can be controlled by Z intensity, right? So you can just adjust the Z intensity and then you're fine. Hey, what's up, Chase? You've been MIA too long. I didn't stream last week, yeah. I streamed the week before, but last week I had an important meeting I had to be at, and yeah, I missed hanging out with you guys last week. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's get back to the smile here. Great, we figured that out. Went down that rabbit hole. There is a lot to remember. That's the crazy part. Like, there's just a ton of stuff that ultimately, at the end of the day, you just are like, okay, yep, I need to play with it. This is why even still, I'm in ZBrush a lot, and I still will try to go down rabbit holes and just play. I try to give myself like a few minutes. If I'm not beta testing something or we're not trying out a new feature, I try to like go back and see what else is in ZBrush, because there is just a lot, you know. So definitely, if you know, the ability to take time and explore, I get, is not super easy, but it's definitely helpful, and then you find new things. And that's what makes it really fun. But yeah, we got there. Extractor is one that I think of, and like I'm like, I need to do a specific task, and therefore I end up thinking of it at some point. But I like the recording phase too. I don't know, something about the recording. I just like recording, man. Okay, let's actually lift up the eyes a bit. Okay, I'm also going to turn on local sim. No, you know what? I'm just going to scale this up. Press and hold control, do a scale up like that. There we go. All right, so we have a little bit of like that fake subsurface in there. So his teeth are obviously in the wrong place now, which is totally fine. So we'll have to fix that. Let's come over here. Give a little bit of thickness. So turn on that back face mask, and then let's move this in. So what I'm going to do is kind of try to bring this down a little bit and kind of get him. Let's look at his. Just look at his face here. I kind of want him maybe a little bit of a larger smile on one side. Trying to think of like super. Okay. Yeah, and I think I want one of these eyes to be bigger. I'm thinking about that eye. And then we have this. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this. Soften that. Pizza box it. Let's make sure those are the only two things selected. Okay, let's come back over here. Let's soften this a lot. I'm actually going to really soften a big chunk of that. There we go. Let's go larger. Okay, that's fine that we're breaking it a little bit. I'm okay with that. Yeah, okay, that's looking pretty cool. I like that. And we can actually come down here. Let's inverse this just a little bit. Yeah. You know what? I bet you. My tablet's giving me a little bit of interesting kickback. I bet you. Yeah, Windows Ink is turned on. What are you doing, Windows Ink? Oh, my ZBrush stuff is not turned on. Here, hold on one second. I had to update my system. That's fine. Yeah, there you go. There we go. There we go. Okay, there we go. Oh, there we go. I had to reset my system, and so I was like, something's giving me weird feedback. There we go. That's what it was. There we go. Okay. So just finding the eye shape just a little bit. Okay. Push this up just a bit. All right. That's going to need to get fixed, but don't worry. I'm actually digging that. All right. Let's see here. Insufficient RAM? What? What's happening? How would I add emissive onto a model? I have a model I want to render, and I want to push where the light hits his eyes. How would I paint an emissive light? Okay, question for you is, do you have Redshift? If you don't have Redshift, emissive, like Redshift, like you can't do it without Redshift. Like ZBrush and Redshift is what brings a lot of that functionality to the table. So emissive lighting is only possible through the render engine that allows you to see that. So with BPR, like you could fake a light in something, and that's just the way you're layering it. However, if you want a reflection off of his eye, and you're not wanting to actually, if you're not wanting to actually like have that, like you want the light to reflect off his eye. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here, right? You do now. You do have, yeah. Pardon me, I need some water. 1 second. Love your advice and methods, man. Oh, thanks. Okay, so true emissive lighting in ZBrush is possible through Redshift. There is, however, an old technique to make something glow. Let me see if I remember it. It is an older technique, and let me see if I can do that. So it's been a little bit, but it's through BPR rendering. And it would be through BPR filters. So first things first, I'm going to duplicate his eyes. So I'm going to Control-Shift-D, and then I'm just going to hide this one for now. Okay. So now, let me see something real fast. If I remember right, I'm going to come over here to BPR. So let's hit render first so we can see BPR is happening. Boom, BPR is happening. Wow, his face needs a little TLC right now. So if I turn on F1 and I go up to noise and I focus on glow, when I do this, I should be able to then isolate a color. So right now it's looking for white, but there's really no true white here. So let's say in theory I want, let's say in theory I want this to glow yellow. So let's pick a yellow. Pick a yellow, Ian. Great. I'm going to go ahead and fill that object. So I'm going to go to color, fill object. It's yellow. Now, I believe it's this color down here. If I remember right, it's this color right here. I'm going to go ahead and pick that. If I hit render, that's going to, does that affect it in any way? Oh, it's been a couple days. Is it this color? And then, hold on, that might be the right color, but I may need to open up the border a little bit. Radius, there we go. Okay, so let's come back here to 0. Let's come back here to 1. Okay, so my radius is now going to kick that glow up, right? And now we're getting a little bit of that. Was it this one that actually? Hold on 1 second. I could have sworn it was this initial. Give me a second. Okay. This is where we're just going to end up breaking stuff. Front color. Oh man, it's been a couple days. Is that it? No, that wasn't it. Okay. Let me see something real fast. Give me 1 minute. I don't even think this is actually what you want either. I'm just trying to think. Let me see. If I get the border of that affected, no. If I mask that off, no. Not shadows, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yeah, that's just masking that color. Okay, it's been a little bit, but I think there's an ZBrush for it. And you can see if this is what you're affecting or what you want to affect. Let me see something real fast. I'll pull up a quick tutorial for you to look at. BPR filter. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just been a little bit for me, so don't mind me on that. Apologize. Let's just go ahead and let's just do a share. Gonna do copy. So this might be something that what you would be interested in doing. So I can go boop. So there's an ZBrush based on the old school way of making something glow. I'm missing something here. I haven't done it in a long time. Now to make something truly emissive though requires Redshift. Now, real fast. Actually, I think I've already saved my project. So let me see here. I'm gonna go ahead and just hit save. I'm going to open up another project real fast that I think would be a good demo for it. And this would be with Redshift. So if I were to take the demo drone that ships with ZBrush, courtesy of Joseph Drust. Thanks, Joseph. Okay, so I have something like this, and I actually demoed this at one point in time. So here, if I wanted to have everything just kind of have like some sort of like brushed metal here, I'm going to need to do this via Redshift. Now I'm streaming right now, and rendering while streaming has never been super cool, so bear with me here. I'm actually working on ways to try to figure out if I can stream more often with rendering. So if I turn on Redshift, and I actually just increase the error threshold to make sure that it's something I want. Let me do a control region real quick. Let's see if it'll render halfway decent. It says preparing to render. Oh, I love this song actually. Can you guys hear my music? A short summary, my character is looking up into the sky. His thick eyebrows and his orbital sockets is in the shadow. I want a small point of light in his eye, but keeping his eye in the shadow. Now, you know what you could do, if you're not using Redshift, you could just make the eye have toy plastic. That could be a way of doing that if you're going with BPR. If you have toy plastic, fill that in with toy plastic, and then that will have reflections, natural reflections, but it's going to reflect all the lights and stuff like that. But it may not hide the shadow as much, but that's a way you could do it. You could just turn the lights down. That would be a BPR way of doing it. But like for true emissive, so I have that first test render. So what I'm going to do here real quick is just do a quick material fill. So if I'm going to go to poly paint with M selected, and then apply last, so everything gets that brushed metal look. But now with this guy right here specifically, let's say I want a light glowing, and you want this to be reflective or have some sort of like glow to it. This is where you can make that material. So here I would say like, let's do like a basic. Let's just do like a basic. Well, it's metal, it's fine, but we can make it a glossy plastic. So we can say, yeah, just fill that with glossy plastic. Now, the way to really affect the emissive part of it, or make this thing emissive, right, would be to, and this is what you would do with your source light. You would actually come on down to your material settings, so your modifiers, so material modifiers, and then if we scroll on down, we have emissive weight. And if I turn this on, and then I pick an emissive color, say something like that, then what this is going to do is now that's going to end up glowing that color, right? So let's actually come back here. I'm control region, render region, render region. So now that's glowing there, right? So now that is becoming that glow. Now this is quite high, so I can turn this down. So I can go emission weight down, render region that. Now I'm getting this glow effect. Now, imagine this the other way, right? So I'm going to take that piece. I'm going to move this off over here as this is my light source. Let's actually back this up for just a second. I'm going to back this up a lot until it has this material. Control-Shift-D on that one piece. Now this is my light source. We're just going to move this up here. Now if I zoom in and come off over here, render region again, we're going to get an emissive glow, and this metal surface should reflect that. Yeah, so now I'm getting a hot spot in this area that's having that glow effect. So this would be, the quote, true emissive approach with Redshift. Let me do a full render. Now you see I have a floor here that's lighting up like the 4th of July. So let's close the floor. Or if we have the floor turned on, that's fine. We'll just come over here to Redshift and we could pick a shadow catcher. There you go. So that way it's not reflecting so much. And now you can see that there is hints of that yellow light coming through, and the metal's picking up and reflecting that off. And then we could just say, let's drop our intensity pretty low. And now you'll have a slight little bit of yellow to it. Let's actually go back here to this lens. Where is it? So let's come here. Let's increase the modifier. Let's go emissive. Let's really just crank that sucker up. Let's come here. Let's go with our light source. It's still quite, let's bring it really, really low. Is there a background? There's no background on that. Okay. So now if I render this again, you'll see that yellow kind of coming through a little bit. So you'll have to end up playing with it a little bit. That's still not such a good example. Where's that emissive? Oh, I need to come here and actually affect this emissive material. Pick that material and push that up. Might need to face this way. Let me see. It's not glowing. Why isn't it glowing? Do I need to refill that? Oh, you know what? I think I know why. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. It's orange. I want yellow. Let's get a really bright color here. There we go. And I want to make sure that's full. So let's come here. Let's go to color. Fill that piece. Yeah, is that glowing now? Let me see. Render region that. Okay, it's starting to glow. Yeah. But the problem right now, this in our first iteration, you can see here it's kind of a flat color. Like, so you're getting a little bit of flatness to this. And the size of this is going to matter. So this is a super tiny light, so I may need to blow this up to make this really, really affect what's happening, because it's just the scale might be a little too small. So let's try now with a bigger object. But you could see parts of that yellow coming through a little bit. There you go. So it's just, yeah, it was too small of a light source, so I needed to blow that up. Now you can see that yellow coming through that render. So where your scene's at, if you want a little bit of speck coming through, then that would be a redshift approach to it. Get the light source itself here. Go ahead and, you know, we can even maybe just turn that off. What happens if we turn that off? We'll see our lights over here. Let's see something. Yeah, so you'll have to set up the scene the way you'd want to see it. But that's about, I would say that's about that approach. Now, what I mentioned earlier, real quick, checking. Yes, but lightly. Yeah, it's very subtle. Yeah. We have tons of plans. We have plans to push redshift more so in ZBrush, making it more robust than we first had when it was launched. So we have, you know, there's a lot of technical stuff going on in the background. But if we were to make this maybe a green light, and again, it's all about just picking this through. Let's make sure. Yeah, the base itself is fine. So if I were to render this, we should see more of a green light. Although I may have to fill it. Nope, there it goes. There's your green light. So yeah. So that might be an approach to take. If we go back to this character though, let's go back to my character for a second, pose 2. Let's turn redshift off. Because again, it's all just about setup. And then let's come through here. Okay, we need our light back on, which is fine. And then we need a non-redshift material. Here you can see I have these specks of my eyes. And you can see here, this is just toy plastic. That's all this material is. So if I wanted a speck in my eyes, but I still want his eyes in a shadow, the last way, the BPR way of doing it would be, you know, you just end up turning down your light a little bit. So maybe we'll get like a rim light, right? So we'll push a rim light in the back, make that a little bit more exaggerative, say something like that. And then this main light here. So then if I were to render region this around his eye, or just do a full render instead, you're going to see a little highlight speck of that light source that's there. So if I turn this off and do this, right, you're still going to see a little bit of a speck, but emissive in ZBrush is quite difficult to get that right. You just have to really play with that. But that's where I would say the cool part is if you go to render recall and you're working on your scene and you're trying to find that shape, that render, it's going to look through and it's going to remember those render settings, those modifiers. And so it will be like, oh, okay, all the material setting, all the light setting, those are the things that will remember, and it'll remember this setup. So it won't remember the actual, like you can't bounce between projects. But in this case, if I were to be like, okay, I rendered him like this, but I didn't like that, and I really did like this one, as soon as I change that back, all my render settings are set to that. The only thing that isn't affected and cannot switch back is any type of pose or any type of material or of subtool change. Like if I moved him over here, if I said he's over here, and then I made a bunch of render changes and then put him back, it's not going to remember that. It's only going to remember the lighting, the material, the modifiers on the material, that sort of stuff. But this render recall allows you to play a lot. And then, of course, too, you also have the ability to, it'll remember the way your lights are. It'll push that stuff back to where you want that to be. So that was a really long-winded answer and a lot of different random options. But emissive in ZBrush, true emissive is really only possible through Redshift. The other stuff, you're kind of faking it until you make it. So you can paint an emissive look to a material. That's where whatchamacallit, that's where matte cap materials come in. A matte cap material is just that. It's light information baked into your actual material. So like this double shade, this look is that light information baked into the material. So yeah, you could actually modify or create a matte cap material, and then essentially that will always have that kind of reflection in it, and it won't be affected. So yeah, with the eyes specifically, like if we were to take the eyes and make this a matte cap material, so we'll just say, let's just fill that material, and then you come back here with your others and you turn down your light source. Let's go really dark. See how bright those eyes are? So then, yeah, you could do that approach too. Again, but it's not truly emissive. It's faked. So yeah, it's just all in like what you're going for, the end game. That's why I went down the rabbit hole. Try to give you as many options as possible. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, great. Let's fix his face, shall we? Really think, yeah, really nice. It's been nice chatting with you, Ian. Thank you for the stream. Got to run to work. Have fun at work. Thank you for stopping by. It's always awesome. Go follow Layla. She's amazing. Go check out her work. Do it. And have fun at work. Have fun at work. Okay. So let's do this. Let's move this face in here. Yes, yes. All right, let's really bust it. The fun part about sculpting for statue is we don't care about topology at all. We really don't. Okay. Ooh, I'm kind of digging that a little bit. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Like creepy big. Let's turn on, here we go. Let's turn on the local sim. And let's give him a big old eye. This is also what's really cool about the cartoon world of Make It Statue. We get to push things all crazy stupid. Yes. There we go. Let's go. Yes. There. Well, I think that's fun. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is, I don't want to fight topology in any way, shape, or form. So I do this a lot. I go back and forth, where I'll go back and forth between Dynamesh and your subdivisions when I'm figuring out shapes. This is why I tend to stay in Dynamesh a lot, actually, because I will be figuring out shapes during the pose, and I like to break things and really push it to another level. So I'm more just kind of figuring out stuff and things. Let's also get Alpha 18 in here. There we go. Okay, cool. You're awesome, Layla. Thank you so much. Have fun at work. Okay. Okay, let's come through and let's really just kind of get this cleaned up. Yeah, he's looking pretty cool. You know what's funny is actually when I first picked this concept to work on this kind of brain character, there was a part of me that was like, oh man, like, am I gonna like really hate the shapes? Is it gonna be super weird, or am I gonna really end up like enjoying the process? And what's cool is like a character like this, in my opinion, gives you almost the most amount of freedom because he's such a weird design, and there's like no wrong way to really interpret him as long as you get all the right things in there, you know? And I remember like I was just like thinking like, man, he's been one of the more fun explorative characters in a while, next to my Cyclops. If you haven't seen me been working on a Cyclops, you should definitely check that out. I've been working on him. He's been a fun exploration as well, but there are more strict rules with him, just because he's still kind of like, you know, he's a creature, but he has like humanoid components to him. This is just like, bro's just a brain. Bro's just a bro. There we go. Okay. Okay, let's actually put some things in the right place. So right now, these teeth are just all over the place, right? So I'm going to go ahead and turn off symmetry, and I'm actually going to do this. We're going to go auto groups because I want to make sure that I can just select the one thing that I want. I'm going to turn on that local sim because I'm actually going to make some changes to the size of his teeth. There we go. Ooh, that's too big. Ooh, that's too big. Don't do that. Yeah, let's not go crazy. Okay, let's grab this guy right here. Let's go boop. Let's grab this one. Does Layla have her own channel? She streams here on ZBrush Live. I don't know if she has her own channel. And if she does, then should definitely go check her out. Actually, here, let me just go share her work real quick. 1 second. Let me see something real fast. Yep. Ah, perfect. Boom. So this is her. So I don't know if she has her own YouTube or anything, but she streams here. But you can go follow her here. Look at this. Look at her work. It's freaking amazing. Love the style. Ah, she does have her own YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that. So. Hey, what's up, Leonard? How you doing? Okay. All right. See, this is where you get to like, yeah, this is where you get to really just like break stuff. Yes! Oh man, this is actually fun. This is actually a super fun. This is a really fun way to explore his smile. There we go. Let's give him a little bit of thickness here on the inside. There we go. Yes, okay, great. Okay, I'm also going to hit the blob brush. And the blob brush is cool, not because it paints. I don't want RGB. The blob brush is cool because you get to do some weird stuff. And with something like a brain, we need weird. So we're going to go really low with the Z intensity. And we're going to just start like making things a little funky. Not that funky. Not funky there. But we get to add some of these kind of little beads of weirdness. This just helps me, just kind of comes in and gives it just a little bit more interesting shapes, I think. There we go. It's too much. We don't want it looking like a scorpion's tail. Need to figure out how to make that radio controlled. Yeah, I'm unmotivated after driving around the valley. Oh man, you went for a drive? Oh, jealous. I want to go for a drive. Sounds like fun. Okay. Yeah, you know, hey, Leonard, you want to make this remote controlled? I have no problems sending it to you. Okay, let's go B, B, and then L for the blobby blob. There we go. Yeah, see, this is just looking... I'm not really worried about all the other little interesting little, like, swirls and stuff I'm getting from it. I just want this to look funky. And funky is definitely where we're going. There, yeah. Oh. He looks so crazy. He looks insane, man. Let's see here. What we got? What we got? Not really. There were a whole lot of dumb people out there. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because all the rain and stuff here in California. Yeah, that's been pretty insane. I would love to try my own 3D work. It seems really cool. Absolutely. You should 100% should. And if you have any questions in the process, let me know. If you're a student or a teacher at a accredited EDU, let me know, and I'll share a link real quick that will get you all of Maxon One's tools for the low price of USD pricing. Have to make sure it's USD pricing of $20 a year, which will give you access to play with ZBrush, Cinema 4D, Redshift, and much, much more. So if you want to give it a shot, all right, there we go. So that's looking a little bit, it's looking a little bit cooler. Okay, so now we got this. In fact, here, I'm gonna do, boom, this is the link I'm talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this for you. We can paste this down. Bam. Yeah, super, super fun. And of course, too, we have a 14-day trial. If you just want to try, if you're not a student or teacher, you could try the 14-day period to go ahead and give ZBrush a shot, especially since it's industry standard tool. And a lot of industries, 13 plus industries use it. So, but let me know if you have any questions. Okay. So now let's go ahead and get, let's lock in his eyes here, right? They're just kind of barely doing a thing right now. So right now I do want to signify that there's some sort of socket for that. So I'm going to go ahead and start kind of carving this in just a little bit. Boom. Also kind of trying to see where the natural indicator of his eye is. And then if I want a cleaner stroke, let's come up here to lazy mouse. Let's turn this up. So just give me a much better stroke to work with. So I'm actually going to, there we go. There we go, that's better. Okay. That being said, let's now push this back a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and get to the move brush, and let's make sure back face is turned off because we want to be able to push this stuff back. I want this to kind of wrap around his eyeball. There we go. And we do want a nice like eyelid. Now here's the thing, the upper eyelid on a real face, if you were to take a look at, you know, your face in the mirror or just any real face, you'll see that there's a stepping pattern that goes from eyebrow to eyelid to eyelid. So the lower eyelid is always further back towards the skull than your upper eyelid. So we want to make sure that we pull that section out. And then the lower eyelid itself needs to get pushed in. Going to go up with this, and then with this one in particular we're going to raise this up. There we go. Yeah, so that's a little bit more forward. This goes pushed back just a little bit, and we're going to take the H polish kind of clean this section up. A lot of times I'll sculpt away the eyebrow and then I'll sculpt that eyebrow back in once I really get this cleaned up. Hi, love this brain, dude. Quick question. Which material do you like working on from the beginning before poly painting? So I'm a huge Skin Shade 4 fan, or like the material I'm using right now. I actually would just use the basic material. I think it's a good material to kind of see a lot of the imperfections. But Skin Shade 4 is kind of where I live most of the time. I ended up modifying this Skin Shade 4 here, so if I come here, it just ends up being just a little bit brighter. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll come up to Render, and towards the bottom, I'll actually turn on Render Preview AO, And this just helps me see just a little bit more depth. And I like it a lot for like 3D printing and stuff. So yeah, it's usually a mix between Skin Shade 4 and the basic material. Okay. So now I'm actually going to increase the resolution on this guy. Gonna kind of pull this up just a little bit, giving him a little bit of an eyebrow effect. Trying to, at least. Let's pull that back just a little bit. Really just trying to get the nice look that I'm going for. There we go. Say something like this. Be something like that. Okay. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool. I'm liking this pose a lot. So let's go ahead and hit save. Awesome, thanks. I'll give it a try. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, cool. So we got about an hour left. So let's see what else we can do with him. Here we go. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and just quickly dynamesh this. Smooth out some of the imperfections. Now I'm going over a lot of this stuff with just that clay buildup. We definitely need to give him some color to his eye. We can talk about painting eyes here in a second. Now, I'm still using, so these eyes right here have been my placeholder for some time, but we're probably going to, what kind of eyes does he have typically? And do I want to make it weird? Okay, he has like normal pupil eyes, so he's not like, no weird goat eyes or anything like that. So let's paint an eyeball, or let's make an eyeball. Let's make an eyeball. That's what I want to do. Let's make an eye. All right. Let's go ahead and drop this. Yeah, let's put that there. Perfect. Time to make an eye. So let's go ahead and just, I'm going to append a basic sphere here. We're going to go ahead and hit solo. And then we're going to pick that one. So appending drops it all the way down to the bottom if you weren't aware. All right. How did you learn to make characters like this? Oh, great question. So I learned to make characters. Well, first, I came across ZBrush due to 3D printing when I was still in aerospace. And when I was moving out of aerospace and into a more creative field. So I used to do Photoshop retouching for the film industry, as well as making props and as a graphic designer. So ZBrush kind of came into stuff. Where I learned to make characters was really just about kind of studying how 2D animation came through, what character design was about. I took courses from learning ZBrush initially under David Igo, and then moving under the 3D Character Workshop with Shane Olson. And having a little bit of a 2D background, I wanted to be an animator when I was in high school. So having that background really solidified early, just simple character design. But somebody like the 3D Character Workshop, Shane Olson specifically teaches the blockout method, which has been popularized by him and has really been moved forward. But he took a lot of that stuff from the way like old Disney animators would actually go through and block out characters. So learning shape language is a big must when you're going through character design. So, and then of course too, looking at concept art and then learning how to create what you see in the concept in the 3D world is super important. So ultimately, a lot of it came down to just character study design and then trial and error. Is this some Kang? Yes, Canon 3D. It absolutely is. All right, so we're gonna be sculpting an eye. I want a kind of semi-realistic eye. I think it would be cool and weird. That's what we're gonna do. So what we're gonna first do is open up and get a different base mesh here. And so I have the gizmo turned on. If I use the arrow key, so F for a second, you can see here I'm actually going to be picking through all these different shapes, and I'm going to go with sphere 32 because it gives me exactly what I'm looking for. And I'm going to turn off perspective here. So I have this now, which is going to be a lot better. And now I'm going to go ahead and let's hide this. Let's actually zoom in a little bit and keep that like that. Perfect. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to, let's grab our ZModeler. Hover over here, polygroup, overwrite. Grab this section, say something like that. Yeah, that'll be good. Push this in. And do. Actually, I only want that one. Gonna soften this a little bit. I'm gonna be pushing this in. Yeah, say something like that. That should be fine. Actually, I don't really want to affect that too much. You know what? Actually, let's do this. Instead of doing it that way, I'm going to take clip curve. I'm actually going to go ahead and clip that. There we go. That should be a little bit better. Then I can take this, kind of soften that. Just end up pushing that in just a little bit more. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That should be fine. So now when I start smoothing this out, I'll get a little bit of a nice little divot in there. Now, I'm going to use a lot of... I think I'm going to end up using I'm going to try something. Let me just try something. Okay, so I want to flatten this out. Is that flat? I want to see something real quick. Yeah, I move the mesh around a lot. Now I'm self-conscious of that. Actually, I think I saw, where was it? Oh, wait, where did my brushes go? Oh, hold on. And ZBrush stuff. There we go. ZBrush brushes. Ooh. Oh, did I lose my brushes? Oh, no. Oh, shoot. I think I lost some of my brushes. I had to do a whole system cleanup. I did. Ouch. Ooh, that's not good. Okay, never mind. I think I lost some of my brushes. I have them downloaded somewhere else. Yeah, I lost my... Ugh. Okay, never mind then. Don't worry about it. Do I think people have to study realism to make better art? No. No, I don't think... Art is subjective. So do you need to study realism to make better art? No, I don't really think so. I think the thing is that it's helpful to study realism because the reality is that art in itself is something that is an exaggeration of the real world. Studying realism is helpful because it grounds you in proportions, volumes, design, what's physically possible, what's not. I don't think you can ever truly get away from not looking at realism. You look at realism every day, and whether we like it or not, if you look at realism and say, oh, I want to make a TV, then you go draw the world's craziest looking TV, you still had a TV put in your head from reality. So I don't think you ever can really get away from that. Actively studying reality, I know a lot of artists who have not. I choose to because I think ultimately it makes me a better artist myself personally in my own journey. But do you specifically have to do it? No, I don't think you have to. I just think it's helpful. But so I guess that's an oxymoron, isn't it? I think it's helpful, but you don't have to. Again, I know artists who don't, and their art's amazing. But it can't hurt. That's really it, right? It can't hurt to study realism. It just gives you a different viewpoint. So I think some of the world's greatest artists have ultimately studied realism because it's what the greats did. It's like what Michelangelo did. It's like what Da Vinci did. Leonardo, all those guys. All the greats have done it. So I think that's where that logic comes from. But I don't like to say anything is mandatory because I don't truly think so. I think it's really up to you and how you feel about it. Ultimately, like if I were to teach how I would do it, I would say you should just to take a look at it. But again, I'm kind of all over the place on this one. I apologize. It is really just whatever you think is good. If you want to start to study cartoons, you want to be a cartoonist, and you study like all the great cartoon stuff, and then you ultimately develop a style that is likened of what you've created, but you never studied realism, you could still be super successful. It's really in all what you would like to do. It really boils down to your approach. Hopefully that made some sort of sense. I realize here that I've kind of like I'm gonna back this up for a second. I kind of like dropped off at some point in time, so apologies. So hopefully that makes sense. If that didn't make sense, I apologize. That was really like sure, but really, but no, but yeah, but okay, yeah, and I get that. So my bad. Exactly. Yeah. Why not try it? Yeah. It's subjective. After learning ZBrush tools, should I start sculpting or should I master anatomy before? Or should or just some anatomy knowledge? Well, anatomy is important no matter what medium you pick up. Like it's 100% important. So you should always be studying some sort of anatomy for whatever it is you're trying to do. So case in point, if you are trying to study, characters, then yeah, anatomy is perfect for you. Yeah, you should absolutely do that. However, if you are studying trees, well, trees have anatomy, so yeah, you should do that too. So yes, you should be studying anatomy, but should you, to your question, when after learning ZBrush, should you start sculpting or should you master anatomy? Master anatomy is a life journey. Like you're not going to, like I still study anatomy. Like that's something that I absolutely do. And I don't think you ever truly get away from that because there's always something to learn. I think mastering anatomy is a very long-term life goal in which you're gonna get really good at it really fast, but then you'll probably hit a spot where you're now just like, oh, okay, I'm at this level of understanding. However, there we go. However, while you're at that level of understanding, there might be things you don't understand over time in practice. So doing sculpting and anatomy at the same time is really how most of us do it. And what I would say is like, tools like Anatomy for Sculptor or opening up ZBrush, going to your actual tool and opening up this écrochet that ships with ZBrush, and looking at that, you definitely do that while you're sculpting. So yeah, do it all. Do it all the time. Okay. So now what we're going to do here, just looking up some quick eye reference. So I'm going to be subdividing this, getting this a little bit more intense. I'm going to add some effects to this. So I'm focusing on kind of that outer side first. And we're just getting, we're going to go a little weird. So we're gonna go ahead and invert that. And then here, we're just gonna start raising this up a little bit. And actually, I'm going to, real fast, I'm going to switch back to alpha 28 because I do want to have some of this kind of grittiness to it. Hey, not a problem, dude. Hello, what's up, the Painted Dragon? Hello, hello. Enjoying much to see this little guy. He looks super cool. He seems to be having such a great time. Right, yeah, he's having a good time. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. Okay. And now here, I'm actually going to be carving in a little bit. All right, so really, like, my whole process on this is just making something with layers on it. Most of the time, irises have different colors, all this good stuff, right? So you just kind of want to come through here and just have something that looks a little interesting. So something like this. It's really going to be like that kind of good from far, but far from good approach. There we go. And then other things I'm going to do here too is I'm going to mask little sections like this. Really tighten that up. And then I'm going to just start like carving a little bit in here like such. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's looking pretty decent. Okay. And then from this, so the outer rim is usually a little bit darker, and then the inside of the iris is actually a lot smaller. The pupil itself is actually dark. The reason why I cut a hole in it is because with lighting and stuff, this is going to appear to be black. So the other aspect to this as well is that I could paint this black. So if I come here and go double-sided, so I'm going to come in here and say double. Okay, I can paint the inside of this true black. So first things first is I would say like this is true white. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll go to color, I'll go to brush, and then let's go to backface mask, and then with the paintbrush, there we go. Okay. Actually, let's go blood red. Let's do this. Actually, I know what's going on. Let's come here. Let's go brush. Dock that little guy. Turn that off. Let's go true black. So we get something like this. Okay. So you have something like that. Now let's go backface mask turned on. Okay, and then now, so we have this kind of like black color here. We're gonna go a little bit of a blood red here. Let's go light on the color. Okay, so my brush is limited, right? Like my shape of this is like super big. because he's actually really, really small. So here's the thing. Whenever your your object is so big, actually that's kind of cool. So anytime your subtool outweighs your actual object, right? And then all we need to do, deformation, unify, kick that back in. Does that actually work with masking? It does work with masking. No way. Shut the front door. That worked with masking. Okay, so I have this masked off, and it was massive, and my brush is capped, right? I have this mask. I want to retain that mask. Unify. Boom. Done. That is awesome. I didn't even know that you could do that. Anyway, so now here, let's go with a lighter kind of blood red here, and we're just kind of giving it that kind of subsurface scatter look a little bit. Right, so we have something like this, which would be good. So if I were to go ahead and render this, you see here now that gives me a darker internal pupil, which is nice. And what I'm going to do, actually, is let's give this a base color. So let's give him like some darker blue outer rim eyes. So we go fill, boop. Say something like that. And then here, let's actually kind of do, I don't know, let's give him some orangey. Give it an orange base for now. Yeah, this might be kind of cool. We'll see. We'll play with it, but we can change a lot of the colors. Little guy in your eye, controlling your brain. That is funny. I like that, dude. Okay. So we have some color to that, which is totally fine. All right. Now we have, so I have this radial symmetry. And so what I'm going to do now is I actually want to create some veins. I want veins for days. So I'm actually going to go with a spray brush, and I'm going to pick, where are we? Not there. Maybe it was that one. Is it that one? Maybe it's that one. Let me see. That one could be it. That one's mostly it. Okay. Let me see what else. Let me just make sure that's the one I want. Oh, no, it's this one. 60. There it is. Haha. Alpha 60. So we're going to go with the light intensity. And then here, what's cool is I get to kind of just like subtly paint them. This is where this kind of comes in. RGB, turn that on. Let's go. We want some like green veins, a couple of them, and then we want like some kind of reddish ones. So the thing is that RGB, I can turn this on, right? So let's go with our transform, radial symmetry. Let's just go down to 4. I'm just going to paint a couple green ones, like such. And then I'm going to switch this to red. I'm going to paint a couple more. Just gives me just a little bit of variation. With a nice big brush. Get a couple in here. No big deal. Now, what's fun is, of course, too, I'm going to subdivide a little bit. So let's actually get some more detail. So now this eye is becoming like 2 million. I can turn off symmetry, of course, and we can exaggerate some of this stuff here. No RGB. So I want some of these to be bigger. And let's go ahead and get stroke, lazy mouse. Let's put that up there. So that's too much on the intensity. There we go. We're just going to exaggerate a few of these. It's kind of following the path of what we got. Yeah, I do have my stylist beanie on. Yeah, I switch. I have washing my ZBrush beanie. Yep. I mean, I gotta represent my buddies. There we go. There we go. Okay, great. Let's say something like this. Okay, so now this is too much of a funky flat color, right? This is too blah. So let's give like the layering a little bit of depth here. So I'm gonna go back here, and let's actually go back to the paintbrush, rather. So BPA, and now let's go ahead and grab. I don't know. I kind of want him to have hazel eyes, I think. And then let's go to masking, and let's do it by color. So now I can just come in here and say, pick that guy. Say, okay, great, perfect. And now I'm gonna do color spray. I'm gonna go with a little bit of a green, and let's turn back radial symmetry. And let's do, that's too much. Let's do 12. And that's still too dark. So here we're kind of doing like a little bit of a gradient. And this is where you can have a lot of fun with color. So eyes, this is a trick I learned in Photoshop years and years ago when I was doing a lot of photo retouching, like beauty photo retouching. I would actually, fun fact, if you go down my Instagram far enough, you'll see some of my photography work. And one of the cool things that I liked about this was, so you would layer these colors up, and you'd be surprised how many purples and oranges and blues and browns and stuff are actually in the eye. And so a lot of times I'll take like some really cool colors. So like if I want like a darker brown here, a lot of times this is good for like blending and stuff. Kind of just like bringing back some of these really fun layers. And then we can bring in some highlight colors, like some purples. Just ever so subtle. I actually can, what I can do too is I can hide the mask. So Control H. I can invert that mask. Maybe paint a little bit. These areas here. Flip that in. Give that a little bit of a glow. And then what's fun about this, of course, right, is now what we can do. We can clear that mask out for a second. Let's go back to masking. Let's go mask by poly paint. Let's adjust that tolerance a bit. There we go. Maybe something like that. Okay, that should be fine. So we can say okay. So we can either mask all the stuff off, or actually we could just clear this. Let's go to poly paint, and let's actually do adjust colors. And then let's increase some of the saturation here. So we can actually increase the RGB intensity, the contrast of an eye, the gamma, of course, of it. Like, so we could play around with this. Maybe give it a little bit more red. Maybe pop that green just a little bit more. Get something a little bit more like that. So that's an option we can do if it looks a little too flat for you. What I'm going to do now actually is go up here to toy plastic, and I'm going to go ahead and fill this material. So color, fill object. So this way it's literally just that. And let's see what this looks like inside of his head. So this is where now we can come over here to geometry, stager, set a home stage, turn off our symmetry, of course. Scale this down. Now we just manually place this guy. And actually, let's do this real quick. Let's open up his... Let's turn off his eyes right there. Let's get this placed in. Okay. And then let's go ahead and say that this... So I'm going to actually Control-Shift-D and duplicate that. And the reason why is I'm going to go back to Stager, so Geometry Stager. I'm going to apply this as the home target. And then I'm going to go to this one. Going to open this up. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Start placing this where we think it belongs. Let's rotate that around. So now we can start like placing where he's looking. Let's hit that stage. Can rotate this around. I can undo the target stage. And maybe say store targets. Now if I switch, we're back at home position. Switch over here. Same thing with this. Let's actually drop the target stage. Let's clear this for just a minute. Let's adjust where that size is. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now. So now we have this. Now, of course, we can see purple in his eyes. So we need to fix that. So let's just come here. Let's get a true black. Let's open up RGB. Not material. Okay, perfect. Had material turned on. I didn't mean to have material turned on. There we go. So now we can fill his eye with black. Now, of course, for 3D printing, we'll end up making that we'll make that solid. We'll be able to do that. But now here, we got some eyes that we're working on. And this is giving us a little bit more direction and stuff like that. There we go. And again, let's turn that target stage off. Let's put his eyes in just a little bit, like he's looking down in it. There you go, yeah. Looks pretty cool. There we go. All right, he's coming together. Let's go ahead and save. Boop. Wouldn't moving each eye separately make it feel weird? No, actually, I want full control over each eye independently, especially if I were to want to do any type of short, quick keyframe animation. Having the eyes paired together, for me, it was just easier to separate it, work with the one. But here I can also just like, if I need to make an adjustment, then it's all about just making that adjustment as it is. So like here, you know, if I want to bring this down, like obviously I don't want to be doing this, right? But having that ability just gives me a little bit more freedom to then ultimately just make sure that it looks pretty good. And I can set that back. So for me, it's just easier to keep them separated. Okay, yeah, okay, perfect. So now we can come in here. We could finalize the way his eyelid are now wrapping around. There we go. Hey, he's looking pretty cool. Hey! What's up, Vincent? How you doing? Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Horizon. Oh, I see. Perfect. No, yeah, not a problem. Yeah, it's really up to you. It's really up to you with the way you want to do things. It's all about just like, You have total freedom, total control. Because I'm making this a statue, ultimately I want to have full control of each eye movement. So it just makes sense for me to keep them separate. Eventually I'll merge them together when we're ready to move on and finalize. I design well. Thank you so much. Dude, I really appreciate that. I'm so happy to have you here. If you have any questions, please feel free to come on in and ask away. But yeah, so now I'm actually really able to see a lot what's going on here. What's that? What time is it? Okay, we only have a few more minutes. Oh, look what happened here. Oh, what's going on over here? All right, I'm going to fill this in, and then let's actually Dynamesh that together. Let's weld that in. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's better. Here. Okay. Kind of smoothing that back down a little bit. Let's actually get the blob brush. There we go. Yeah, I think that's going to look a little bit better. And then, actually, that's not good. Let's do that. Kind of broke it. So let's fix that. Let's give it a little bit more. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, cool. So I like this a lot. So we can see, so let's check it. Like, let's check where we're at on this, right? And actually what we could do too, if we wanted to see this straight on. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is actually looking pretty cool. So again, we have him looking at it here. Actually, let's clear that. Let's go perspective. We have him looking at it like this over here, which is pretty neat. We can see what's going on behind him, which is pretty cool. From this angle, we can see what's happening. From above, we can see the screen, which is nice. In fact, actually, but I'm seeing something here that I'm not 100% liking. So let's grab all these different subtools and let's look at it from the top here. I kind of want this to be facing, and maybe we pull this down just a little bit. Maybe that's too much. Let's move that up. Yeah, you know what? I think that's fine. I think that's pretty good. I'm happy for now. I'll sleep on that. When in doubt, sleep on it. Okay, here, let's do this. I want to move this tentacle a little bit more. So I'm actually going to go here. Let's hit save. And let's do proxy pose. So geometry, proxy pose, and then I'm going to find a low resolution mesh. This is why I like it, because it allows me to stay inside of Dynamesh a little bit easier. And then, of course, too, I could just kind of do this trick here. Boop, 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 boop. Kind of move this back. There we go. Yes. Yeah. There we go. Boom. Like that. Like that. Vincent, no. I said hi. How you doing? Hello, hello. Can you not hear me okay? Thank you for your kind words, by the way. If you missed me, no, thank you for your kind words, Vincent. Really, it's an honor. Hello, what's going on? Welcome in, welcome in. Okay. Here, let's do this real quick. I want to go to geometry. I want to go back to stager. I want this eye to be bigger. So I'm going to go local sim. So there's a reason why I want his eye to be bigger. So let's back it up. And let's go just a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yep, okay, great. Awesome. No, hello, hey, how you doing? No, thank you for being here. And seriously, your words are amazingly kind. Thank you so much. I'm happy to have you here, 100%. is happening? Oh, it could be just the material. Okay, it could just be a weird reflection. Let me see something. Could just be a weird reflection. Because it is, yeah, it's just a weird reflection. Okay, great, perfect. So yeah, all right, that's looking pretty cool. I like that a lot. Again, let's actually make sure his eyes are down. Like he's looking down just a bit, and we'll store that. Perfect. Love this Goofy model. The positive Goofy would make such a fun toy print. Oh yeah, we're absolutely going to be doing that. We will need to be fixing this stuff right here. That needs to happen. We need to like finish this design coming through, but I'm actually super happy with how this has been coming out. So getting him explored, it was the best approach. Okay, so let's hit B. Let's go B, P, and then A, because I want to add some depth to his mouth. So we're going to go with some dark. And then we'll kind of fade this out a little bit. So let's go with RGB, not so intense, and get like a little bit of a fake shadow painted in there. There we go. Hello, sir. I have a question about Dynamesh. In which stage should I stop using it? And start using ZBrush, or should I use it? Or can I keep using Dynamesh until the end of my object? So that's a fantastic question. A very common question too, which is great because it's a topic I actually like talking about. So the real short answer is it's up to you. It's 100% up to you and how you want to do that. But the long format answer is, well, it depends on where your final result is going to be. So right now, my mesh is Dynamesh. This is a Dynamesh mesh. And I've switched back and forth between ZBrush and Dynamesh multiple times throughout this whole stage. I am going for a toy, a statue at the end of it. And because of that, I don't care about topology for this project. However, I do want to take him into Substance Painter and do a Substance Painter bit of a texture and stuff with him. And that means I will need some sort, of course, of mesh that will allow me to have UVs and stuff. So if your in-game is for toys, it doesn't matter, whatever you would like to do. However, I do want to make this note, which is ultimately Dynamesh does not hold resolution as well as subdivision mesh does. A cleaner mesh is going to produce better results in high details at the end of the day. Dynamesh, you'll probably run out of resources on your machine. Like you'll run out of RAM and CPU computing before, unless you have a super high machine. But even then, like it's, you'll run out of that information a lot faster with Dynamesh because you'll need to be up into the millions and millions to really, really get. So it depends on how hard you're going to push the model. And it depends, again, what the end game is. So for me, for this, eventually I'll get it into into a proper ZBrush mesh or a manual retopology when I'm ready to cut UVs. But if you're just sculpting like I'm doing, you're sketching, you're sculpting, you're making something for toys, maybe you'll never go into Substance Painter, then it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. My computer, I could take a Dynamesh mesh to final if I wanted to. It's not a big deal. The only other benefit, though, to going with ZBrush is you tend to have cleaner topology and a cleaner look to it. You see all these different warbles and stuff like that. These different warbles is just really like it's going to be difficult to clean a lot of this stuff up and make that look really good without heavy smoothing. And then, the way ZBrush works is that, of course, if we zoom in, it's all based on vertices and how and that's what captures all the actual information, all the height information, the poly paint, everything is done with a vertice, right? So Dynamesh has a lot of, oddly shaped, not so even quads, which isn't really doing any favors. Where ZBrush will give you a lot better result, and it'll just allow that. And then you can step down, right? You can step down through lower levels, make bigger changes, step back up to higher levels and make higher changes. So at the end of the day, if you want really clean, super good results, and you want your mesh to look really amazing, beautiful, then as soon as you have a blocked out state and you're done with all your main design, you're really done with your, you've blocked in the whole human character and now you're ready to dress it. That's when you should move away from Dynamesh and get a low poly version, a ZBrush version of that, to help support the fact that you're now going to be making clothes on top of it. So when you're ready to move on to different stages is a good point. But again, you really have a lot of freedom. It just depends at the end of the day what it is your ultimate goal is and where that is going to live. And then that is a determining factor for a lot of it. For me, like I said, for this project, we're doing toys. Eventually, I will ZBrush this, get something with some halfway decent UVs on it, and I will call it a day, and I'll move it into Substance Painter. But for the design element of it, yeah, it doesn't really... For designing, think of Dynamesh as a sketching tool. That's really the best way to look at it, I think. Dynamesh is for sketching. ZBrush is for like your inking, you're finalizing that look. And since I've been spending a good chunk of time actually posing this guy, you can see here I'm breaking it a lot, and so Dynamesh is helping me quite a bit with this. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and save. Hopefully that helped out. You like the eyes? Thank you so much, Vincent. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the eyes are really cool. It really brings something to the table, which is nice. And it'll be really easy to close that off and make it 3D printable. And so then now we have some really good, really good design elements inside that looks pretty cool. And see here, like this eye is subdivided. So I'm able to really step down and see the low resolution mesh, then step back up and have the higher mesh. And I'm able to get a lot more detail in all of this. So yeah. Actually, I'm going to give that a different polygroup. What's cool, if you do have things subdivided, like check this out. I want to show you guys a really cool trick. If you didn't know, if you want to show off your model and you have really clean mesh, or you have really good topology and like, oh, I want to show off my topology in a render, you can do that in ZBrush. So let's say we're done happy with this. And this will be good because we'll end the stream on this tip. So actually, let me do this real fast. Let me take the clay buildup and want to just blend this in just a little bit. Okay, so let's say we're super duper happy with this. This is the final product. We're happy with it. And even still, actually, it might be good to just move to subdivisions anyway. See how I constantly talk myself into other drives. So I'm going to go ahead and press and hold Control and tap up here at the top and get that stored history point. And then let's go to ZRemesher. And again, this is our main result right here. So this is Dynameshed. So I'm going to put that boom right up here. And it even has the color information. So now I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, let's keep groups. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one better. I'm going to come through here and we're going to set ourselves up with some success. So I'm going to come in here and mask this section off right here and give it a new polygroup. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to mask that off, and get a different polygroup just like such. Okay. This way I have just different polygroups for that. And because I stored that history, what I'm going to do is we're going to zoom in here so you can see the jagginess of that. If you give ZBrush a fighting chance, we're going to go ahead and polish those groups. And that's going to give me a nice, cleaner result. Now let's come over here. Let's start. We're at 1.9 million, so let's go with at least 35 1,000 target polys. Maybe 50 would even be a good idea. And let's do adaptive turned on with it down to 0, so that keeps nice even topology. Smooth groups turned down to 0 with keep groups on. This will help with the over smoothing, or what some people would call shrinking. It's not really shrinking as much. It's more of like smoothing to the point where the normal's just, it's not the same volume anymore. So it's just like heavy smoothing based on the vertice count. So we'll keep that at a minimal as much as possible, which will help for projecting back. And then I'm going to go ahead and say, let's do it. Okay, while that's going. Okay. Let that think for a second. Thank you for the big answer, sir. We'll practice more and hope my hand will become in handy. Yeah, nice. Ian, I would love the tip on preview AO. I'm playing here, trying to paint some of these shadows on the dark character model, and not having much success with mask by AO, especially with on wrinkles and many small areas. Do you have any recommendations? Yes, I do. Hold on one second. I'll definitely I'll cover that too. You also started using, let's see, the Painted Dragon said I started using Sculptris Pro in my workflow. Been around for years, and I only realized how powerful. Absolutely, yeah. And then, okay, I do see, hey Ian, can you give me a hint? Is it possible to somehow extract the material texture from a matte cap? You want to adjust the colors. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right, hold on one second. Let's go through this part first, and then, yeah. So we have this, and also the color is really just, it's just a dark color. So this is now 42,000. This is actually pretty nice. Like, I'm actually excited with that. That's enough information. So that in itself, I'm going to go ahead and, although I do see a couple of failures right here, so I can do something like this. I could take ZBrush guides, and then I could say, look, I want that area to be like that. Everything else looks pretty good. Up the strength, and then just do same. And let's see if that ZBrush guide kind of helps fix that line right there, which in theory it should. Boom. Not so much that time, which is interesting. Okay, I'll back it up and increase the guide just a little bit more. Let's try it one more time. You like the mouth too, Vincent? Yeah, it's such a cool little guy. Okay. That's fine. All right, I'm not really going to die on the sword for that. I don't really need super clean topology. I'm not going to stress on it overnight. So here now I'm going to go ahead, and you can see the major difference between the two. So now I'm going to subdivide a few times, and then I'm just going to go up here to my project. So I'm going to go to project history. That's going to give me all my detail and my color, and that's going to push that back. Again, he's such a weird dude, which is awesome. And now we have this. Now what's cool is, let's say we want to render this, but we want to show the low poly mesh on top of the high poly mesh, right? What we can do is we can turn on our polyframe by hitting Shift F, and we can turn off the fill color so we just see the lines. And then we can drop down to resolution by hitting Shift D, or you just come up here to geometry and kick that down to the lowest resolution, and then turn off the polyframe and then turn it back on. And what that does is that preserves the low resolution look. So then I can increase the resolution again, and now you can see here that I actually have that low frame looking on it. I can make an adjustment by going to my preferences, draw, and I can actually increase the color of that wireframe. Now what's fun is if I hit BPR, so Shift R, when it renders, it's going to render everything with the low poly frame on it. So you can see here now everything has it. So even if I were to zoom into the eye, let's do a render real quick. You can see the mesh in the render, and this is really cool. It's a great way to show off how something is. And then what's fun is if we turn off all the color, and I do this again, you can now see this version in it. So super cool way to go about doing this. And you can see here, there's all of that information. Then you can do a turn with showing the wireframe with the color or without the color. But as soon as I turn it off and on again, I'll show you the dense mesh, and then that's what would render. So that's a really fun little tip if you want to render out the wireframe in ZBrush. Okay, let me, real quick, we had a couple questions that we'll try to answer real quick, and then we're going to go ahead and call it a day. We'll start from the bottom and work our way up. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the first, well, actually, let's go up to the top here real quick. So the first one, can you give me a hint? Is it possible to somehow extract the material texture from a matte cap? So if you come up here to, let's pick a matte cap material. So let's pick matte cap gray. And let's pick a more interesting one. Reflect orange. Well, it doesn't really matter. Green. Boom. Whatever. Anyway, if I come up to material and I dock this on the side, and then down here at the bottom, where is it? Under modifiers? Yes, under modifiers, you see here is the actual file that is the color itself. And if I pick that, you can import your own. Can I actually export that out? I don't know if I can export that out, actually. Is that possible? That's a good question. Let me see something real quick. If I fill this, I'm going to go ahead and just, here, we're going to do this. I'm going to go, well, we have history, so let's just save. Let's just save with everything turned on. Okay, great. I'm going to turn that off for a second. So if I actually fill this with color fill, so now this has this color. Can I do that? No. And let me see something. I'm curious now. If I go to texture, new texture, fill from material, and that's just picking up as white. So I don't know if you can actually export this out, interestingly enough. Let me see what Z, you want the color? Is that what you want to adjust the colors from the material itself? The only way I know you could possibly do that is by creating another material like this. So you can create this in Photoshop. This is just a picture of a sphere with the light information on it, and then that gets imported. I don't know if you can export that out. Let me look into that, and I can answer that next week if you can actually export that out. I do know, however, if you had UVs on it, that you could actually do adjust color. So you could do polypaint from polygroups. You could do polypaint from texture if it had a texture map on there. If you had an actual texture map, that's how you would do it that way. As far as exporting out the only other thing would be now just playing with the colors here, figuring out the base, because you got base white, and then it's this image that's driving the look of the matte cap. So initially, I don't think you can just export out and adjust that. You would want to adjust this file. Channel descriptions. Nope, not that. Create a texture. Create matte cap texture. So yeah, maybe if you had UVs, there you go. If you had UVs, let me see something real quick. Let's do this. Let's try it together. I actually never really approached this like this. So let's see. I like learning together. It's always fun. Polygroups. Let's unwrap this guy. Let me see. As we figure this out together. So we have this guy right here. And then let's say, so we have texture. So if I were to come here and say create matte cap texture, that's probably based off of all of these different things. Unless it comes up here to texture. Oh, there it is. Oh, interesting. Wait, hold on. Turn that off. Why is that grayed out? Is it because I'm on solo? No. Interesting. That's actually grayed out for me. It looks like if I say create texture here, it is creating a texture right there. So you should be able to then, in theory, adjust the colors based. Ah, there we go. Figured it out. Okay, great. So yeah, so you go ahead and create your matte cap texture, and then from there, you can adjust You can adjust it here. Here we go. Here we go. So that took a little bit of time. So you should be able to do this part. Now, you would want to export that out because now that's adjusted. Why can't I export that out, though? No, go back. Interesting. You caught me thinking. Yo, what's up, guys? How you doing? Cool. And then you would add more color, won't you? Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why it's not letting me... Let me see something here real quick. Oh, is it the brush that I'm on? Ah, maybe that's it. Ah, there it is. It's just the brush that I'm on. Okay, there you go. So that's my bad. I had a different brush on, which eliminates the use of textures in some things. Okay, so here I can export this texture out. Let's just call this... There you go. That's all it is. So that's an EXR file, which is fine. Let's just put this on my desktop, and let's just call this test. Okay. And then from here, I should be able to come in. There it is. Boom. Done. Okay. Wow. Let's start over, and let's pretend we're doing this from scratch. Sounds good? Okay, great. So here, we're going to want to change the color of this matte cap gray material. So the way that we want to do this is first initiate a texture for it. So you come down here, so you go up to Materials, Modifier, and you would say Create a Matte Cap Texture. This is going to give you a brand new texture at this point. From here, then, you can actually select that texture, which you got here, and you can come on down to adjust your colors. And then you can play with this as much as you would like. So you can adjust all of this, however, really just boost this down. So we can make this super matte. There we go. Whatever we'd like to do. There you go. We can make this. So we say, okay, great. And then from there, we can pick our texture underneath, and we could pick that new texture, and there you go. That's how you do it. Woo! Just make sure you're on the standard brush or on a brush that accepts textures, or else it got grayed out. There you go. We did it. And learning is half the battle. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. Remaining light. Hopefully you stuck around for that. There you go. Okay, let's take... let's see here. Okay, the last question of the day, and then we're going to get going, which is, you love the tip on the preview video. You're playing with the poly paint. You're playing with some of the shadows. Okay, so AO. All right, so AO is very interesting. It's interesting in the best of ways, of course. So let's back up. Get our color back. Okay, there we go. Got our color back. Would you like to take that back? Okay, great. So we got our color back here. So AO, let's actually pick skin shade. Turn that off, and let's pick skin shade 4. Pretty nice. So there's a couple things. The thing to remember is when you're doing masking by AO, this is an algorithm in which it's kind of more pulling from the depth of things. So if I were to say mask by ambient occlusion, it's more looking for the actual depth or the crevices, right? However, you know, there's another way to go about doing this. And true AO, or more realistic AO, is actually lives up here under Z plugin, which is ambient occlusion. And if I were to compute from here, this automatically generates a mask for me. But what this is really doing is it's identifying all the areas in which you should have a proper mask. And it's going to give me a better realistic ambient occlusion. So now what I can do is I have this mask here. I can actually come here and invert that. And I can even pick the color that's a little bit darker. And then, of course, do just hide that with Control H. And then grab my paintbrush and start painting away. It's a little bit dark. So this will give me a bit of a better ambient occlusion than the masking by AO. And it generates a mask for me. So I'm able to use that mask the way that I would like to do it. So this, in my opinion, is a much better approach. It just also looks really good, and it really helps out, giving you some better results, and you can adjust it. You can adjust how many samples, you can adjust what aperture you're at, how smooth it is. If you have collision volume and you turn this on, any subtools that it's actually colliding with can give you different results, what that resolution is, and also to the distance of it. So you can adjust a lot more. The quick mask by ambient occlusion, that's mask by AO is fine, but it's not the same. This one in particular is GPU driven, so it gives you much better results. And like I said, it automatically picks a mask. It generates that mask for you. So you're able to do a lot more with it. And I actually prefer this method. So hopefully this is good for you. Awesome. Okay, great. All right, that being said, we're going to go ahead and end the stream for today. Thank you, everybody, for being here, hanging out. I mean, look at this guy. He's freaking cool. We need to fix a few things. You know, right now it's still pretty... We still have some pretty low-res stuff here. But ultimately... Also, what happened there? Okay. Interesting. Sure what happened to that bit. Little bit right there. I'll have to end up fixing that. I could just, that's easy. Now we know the position. I can just load that other tool in from before and just swap it, and it's fine. No big deal. No need to fret. So anyway, thank you all for being here. It's super awesome. Don't forget too that we have, like I mentioned before, if you have the student teacher license, if you're looking to get into ZBrush, really quick, fast, and effectively, or any other one of our Maxon 1 tools, this is the way to go about it, especially if you are at a school that has an accredited EDU. That's perfect. But also, too, we do have events and stuff coming up. If you guys are going to GDC, if anyone's going to be at GDC, I'm going to be around hanging out with the Sense Lab team, so please come in and hang out. But you can also see some of the events that we're doing. If you're in Japan this weekend, it is a Wonder Festival, which I wish I could be there. That would be a lot of fun. But, yep, that's going to call it for the day. Again, thank you guys, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your time. Okay, that is it, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, 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 bye.